to provide spiritual guidance to the faithful of the Malankara Church who were facing crises. His Holiness Patriarch More Ignatius Abdulmasih I permitted More Yeldo to travel to Malankara. At that time, the Maphriyano was over 90 years old. In 1678 at Antioch, More Ignatius Abdulmasih I himself appointed Yeldo as the Maphriyano of the East under the name More Baselious Yeldo. Baba arrived at the ashram of St. Matthew and made preparations for the journey to India. Sannyasis from the ashrams of St. Matthew and St. Bahanam, including Yovi Matthew, Bishop Hidayathullah, and Yeldo's brother Jama, joined him on the journey to India. They traveled by road from Mosul and reached the city of Basra. From there they continued their journey to the port of Basra. After traveling approximately 850 kilometers from Mosul, they reached Basra in Iraq, boarded a ship, and set off for India. The ship on which Mar Yaldo and his group traveled anchored at the port of Surat in Gujarat in the middle of 1685. There is a saying that when some Malayali Christians present there saw his Maphryan attire and heard him speak the Syriac language, they recognized him as a Christian monk. They together received him with respect and arranged help for his journey. Baba and his entourage, who set sail from Surat, reached Thulassery, a commercial port in northern Malabar. Today, near the Thulassery coast, there is a Jacobite church named after Saint Givargis Sahada, which preserves the relics of Saint Yeldo Baba. After arriving in Thulassery, they decided to continue their journey by land to Malankara, including what is today Kothamangalam, which was then called the Land of Angels. However, to avoid threats from the Portuguese and pirates, they traveled east from there, crossed the Ghats, and continued their journey into the regions of Tamil Nadu. After crossing Churam from Thalassery and traveling into the regions of Tamil Nadu, Baba, having endured attacks from wild animals and other creatures as well as adverse conditions, reached a commercial center in a hilly area near Munnar. Although there were temporary shelters required for staying in that commercial area, Baba, warned by the feeling that nature was not favorable, was unwilling to stay there and decided to go to the higher parts of the hill to spend the night. There, he gave the local residents a warning and advised them to accompany him, but everyone refused to accept it. The rest had to be considered as having stayed with Baba on the higher hill in caves and elsewhere. In the morning, when Maphriyano Yaldo and his group realized the extent of the disaster, they came down from the top of the hill and saw the devastation caused by last night's rain, with the marketplace and several hermitages destroyed and some people who lived there killed in landslides. They offered prayers for the deceased. The local tribes who lived there respected him. According to some traditions, it is after this event that the place came to be known as Palivasal. Baba, realizing that they would be entering densely populated areas by walking through the forest from the church entrance, decided that More Hidayatullah, who was still accompanying him on the journey, did not need to continue with him, thinking that traveling together would be more cumbersome. He asked More Hidayatullah, who was with him, to sit at a resting place on a tree that passers-by or others had prepared. Later, Baba traveled alone and reached the village of Kotsakapalli near Kothamangalam. There, he met a Nair youth who was tending to calves, and the elders' histories related to this are as follows. Baba, having met the Nair youth who was also herding cows, asked by gesture if there was a nearby church. The youth, having seen the cross and everything, realized that he was a Christian ascetic and showed by gesture that there was a church nearby. Baba requested him to guide the way. However, he showed his helplessness, explaining that he could not leave his cows orphaned and therefore could not go with the Baba. Then Baba drew a large circle with his sliba and asked the young man to bring the cows inside that circle. When the young man did so, he was surprised to see that the cows stayed within the circle without stepping out. At that time, the young man tried to describe with gestures about his sister who was suffering from labor pain. Understanding the matter, Baba, following his suggestion, blessed a tender coconut brought by the young man from the nearby palm. The young man immediately gave it to his sister, and after she drank it, she felt relief and her delivery proceeded smoothly. After that, the young man gratefully took Baba to the church. Keeping that memory alive, even today, the younger generations of that family guide Baba's festival procession by holding lamps on the way. When Baba arrived at the small church in Kothamangalam, the church bells rang on their own. Hearing this, people ran to the church. At that time, Kothamangalam was a center for the trade of aromatic spices. It is concluded that Baba arrived in Kothamangalam on the 10th day of the month of Kani in the Malayalam calendar of 1685. He told those who came there about Hidayatullah, who had come along with him. A group of people, along with a mat, went through the forest paths of the Kotsapilli area to find and receive Hidayatullah. They found the place where he was staying. Seeing the crowd, Hidayatullah looked fearful, and they showed him peace by waving the handkerchief given by Maphriyano. Then, although afraid, he came down, got onto the mat carried by the group, and returned to the small church. Later, Hidayatullah got down from the mat, and Eldo Baba and Hidayatullah hugged each other and cried out loudly. Seeing this, everyone present cried as well. The next day, Baba set out to go to the big church, and while descending the lower slope, thinking how he would climb this hill again, his mother appeared before him. Seeing his mother filled him with spiritual satisfaction, and he said that he had seen his mother too, and then returned to the small church. It is said in old sayings. 2 days later, on the feast of the Holy Cross, some sources state it as the 14th day of the Malayalam month Kani, considered the feast day of Sliba. After the Holy Kurbana that day, Baba Hidayatullah was consecrated as Archbishop under the name Maphriyano's Hidayatullah. Due to his age and the long journey he had undertaken, Baba became very exhausted and fell ill, passing away on September 29, 1685, Canny 19 in the Malayalam month. At the time of Bava's death, the large stone cross outside the church shone by itself, allowing the faithful to witness his death at the cross. Bava was buried alongside Saint Modbaha as a saint. May the memory of the saint always be a fortress and refuge for us.